Hi, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mateo Chavez Lewis, and welcome back to the channel. Music Theater Theory, As you can see, I moved out of my apartment. My partner is going to grad school in New York in the fall. I'm hoping to join her in New York, not in grad school. And I have a couple contracts in different places across Canada. Obviously, the main one is Vancouver, which is Jerry Lee Lewis, which is why I have the hair growing out, because I'm playing Jerry Lee Lewis in $1 Million Quartet, and that's out in Vancouver. So because I'm going to be moving around so much and she's going to be going to New York, we figured it wasn't worth keeping the apartment, so that is why I'm back here in my parents' basement for the next couple weeks. And I'm going to take some time to make some super awesome content for all of you, hopefully. Today we are talking about Lea Michele, finally. I recently posted a video where I reviewed a bunch of Broadway shows that I had seen in my last 2 New York trips. But I thought this show deserved its own video because I've spent a lot of time on this channel being very mean to Lea Michele. Back in July of last year, or July or August, whenever her casting as Fanny Brice in the revival of Funny Girl was announced, I made a video reacting to her performance of Don't Rain on My Parade in Glee. And I mean, like, I was a little bit mean to her, especially in my thumbnail. Like, I picked the absolutely most unattractive face that I could possibly find. She was opening her mouth really wide like this. And I put like this snarky face where I was like this in the thumbnail. Then I put this text that was like, is this better than Beanie? And I don't know, I kind of feel a little bit bad for making fun of her so much. Because the fact is she's incredibly talented. And I finally got to see her play Fanny Brice in Funny Girl live from like the 3rd row of the orchestra while I was in New York City. So this video is going to be talking about her performance. And you know, like I've always said about Lea Michele, if you've seen the other videos I've made about her, you'll know how I feel about her, in that she has this cry sound effect to her voice. Don't tell me not to live, just sit and putter. That little that cry sound effect that I kind of think she overuses. More importantly, though, I mean, there's been all this controversy about her behavior, right? A few of her co-stars on Glee have said that she was a bit of a terror to work with. She said some really mean things to some of her castmates on that TV show. But at the same time, you know, I'm all about people learning, I'm all about people growing, and I have not heard anything but lovely things about Lea Michele since she's taken over the role of Fanny Brice on Funny Girl. So I would like to believe that she has reflected upon why the things she said were harmful, and that she is behaving better and treating her castmates better on this show. But regardless what you have to say about Lea Michele, I know she's a controversial figure, but you cannot say that she is not doing a great job in this musical. It's just a fantastic performance from start to finish. I went on a Saturday matinee, and I think her voice might have been a little bit tired when I went to see it. Or it sounded like she was getting over a little bit of a cold, maybe, because at the very beginning of the show, she had a little bit of a rasp in her throat. And you could see, like, as a singer, I'm pretty good at seeing other singers navigating their technique. And you could see her going in her head, oh boy, this is not exactly my best vocal day, and trying to find the way to navigate those high parts in I'm the Greatest Star, which is her first big solo in the show. It's also her big solo in the show where she sings the highest note. She hits a high E natural. I am the greatest star, in like a full chest belt. So that's basically her highest note in the show, and once she gets through I'm the Greatest Star, the vocal part is a little bit less up in the stratosphere, and so I sensed that she probably was a little bit concerned about how those high notes in I'm the Greatest Star were going to come out, and then I saw her relax a little bit after that song. But what I loved about seeing that was how well she navigated being a little bit tired. Because that's the thing I think that really distinguishes the professionals from the almost professionals in terms of singers, is it's one thing to be able to sing a high E, but it's another thing to be able to sing a high E when your throat's feeling kind of raspy or kind of tired, maybe you didn't warm up quite enough that morning. And the fact that she was able to lock into her technique, relax, use her breath support, and never break character either. When I say I saw her thinking about her technique, I'm not saying that she dropped out of Fanny Brice. You could just see her as the actor and her as the character at the same time, navigating the vocal challenges. She was still totally present and engaging with her scene partner while she was navigating these things. And it was really impressive to watch that. For me, actually. I almost would rather watch that than watch someone totally knock it out of the park and have it be very easy for them. Because I think, like I said, what really makes the difference between the professionals and the not quite professionals is not how well you do on your best day, but how well you do when you're feeling a little bit under the weather. So I was just blown away by that. Also, like, she's really funny. She's really, really funny. I talked a lot about how Annaleigh Ashford is giving a really hilarious performance as Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd right now. In that last video where I talked about all those Broadway shows that I saw, Sweeney Todd being one of them. But Lea Michele is really giving Annaleigh Ashford a run for her money in terms of funniest leading female performance on Broadway currently. She's just hilarious in all her little bits. She really commits to them, and she lands every joke. It's great. Of course, we have to talk about her Don't Rain on My Parade. And here's the thing, as we were getting up to the song, the scene before is happening at the train station, I'm sitting there in the audience and I'm getting ready to like pay attention to the details because I know I'm gonna come back here and make a video for all of you. So I was like, I need to remember all the details that I see live. So I was getting ready, I was focused, I was getting ready to really turn on my analytical brain, think about it. And you know what? Like I just forgot to think about it analytically. I just got really swept up in the story and in the passion. And there's something to be said too for being in the audience with the 1,000 people or however many. Just everybody in the room was so captivated by her. It was just extraordinary to be part of this mass audience where everybody was just so engaged and so enraptured. And something spiritual happened in that theater, and I just totally forgot to listen for the cry sound effect or the big open vowels or anything that I've been talking about. I didn't hear any of that live because I was only hearing Fanny Brice singing from the heart. And it's interesting too, I think a lot of theater teachers, acting teachers will tell you to be very specific with your thoughts, to plant your feet, but especially at the ending of that Don't Rain on My Parade, she was totally feeling the music swaying back and forth, and like her eyes weren't even focused on, you know, an imaginary scene partner or whatever your acting teacher tells you to do. She was just kind of taking in the whole audience and the whole world at once and like moving to the music, and something about it was very magical, like she was conjuring the spirit of Fanny Brice or something. I don't know, because it could have been nobody is gonna rain on my parade, but instead it was like nobody is gonna rain on my parade. It was just more spirit and more soul than it was mental, if that makes sense. So I mean, that is proof that every rule has an exception. Acting teachers will tell you to be super focused and specific with your thoughts, and that, I think, makes for good acting 99% of the time. But then there are these times when just feeling the music and feeling the emotion and just holding the whole audience in the palm of your hand like that is what is the most powerful choice. It was a really, really memorable experience for me. Strange enough, one of my favorite parts of the whole show actually was Rat-Tat-Tat-Tat, which is kind of a random comedic number in Act 2. And she comes out with this fake mustache on. And at the show I was at, I do not think that this is supposed to happen. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. In the performance I was at, the mustache started falling off. And so you could see her trying to put it back on. And it didn't feel like she was trying to draw attention to it. It felt like she was hoping the audience wouldn't notice almost, which is kind of what made me feel like it wasn't intentional. But then when it became very obvious and the mustache kept falling off, she just ripped it off and threw it to the conductor. And it was this very great moment, again, of professionalism. I'm making the assumption that this wasn't supposed to happen and it wasn't just a bit. I think she was supposed to keep the mustache on the whole time. And if that's correct, if my assumption is correct, and this was something that went wrong, then I think that reacting in the way she did proves what I was saying before about how what makes a true professional isn't how you do on your best day. It's how you navigate things that go wrong, situations that aren't ideal, whether that be vocal situations or prop situations or what have you. And she just did an amazing job of navigating all of that. If I'm wrong, and the mustache was supposed to come off, well, that was very believable acting. The best part, though, of the whole evening for me was that last sequence where she's sitting alone, she sings the music that makes me dance, she goes into Don't Rain on My Parade, and it was just mesmerizing to watch her go through that. It was such an emotional but controlled performance. Her eyes were like shining with tears, and she sang the ever-living fudgesicles out of it. Oh my god, did she sound good. Like, what a difficult part to act, to sing that section. The amount of emotional rawness that it demands, on top of such vocal power and focus too, because it's just you alone on stage for this whole finale chunk. And it's the end of the show. It brings down the show. It has to have enough energy to bring down the curtain and end the whole show. And she did it. It was amazing. And the audience just leapt to their feet. It was a really, really incredible performance. So, before the Tony nominations came out, a few people asked me if I thought Lea Michele should be nominated or should win a Tony this year for Best Leading Actress in a Musical. After the Tony nominations came out, people were very confused. People came up to me and asked me why I thought she didn't receive a nomination. Guys, she was not eligible for a Tony for this performance. If she had been eligible, I would be really, really surprised if she didn't win. But she was not in the running at all from the start. And that is because she was a replacement. So the idea is that the Tony Awards are judging the opening night version of the show. So the cast that performs on opening night is the cast that is eligible for Tony Awards in almost all cases. Now, the person who performed on opening night of this revival of Funny Girl as Fanny Brice was Beanie Feldstein. Now, she was eligible for a Tony. She did not get a Tony for that role. Everyone famously thought she did not do a very good job, was the prevailing opinion from critics. But Beanie Feldstein was eligible for a Tony that year because she performed on opening night. Lea Michele was a replacement, and that is why she is not eligible. That's only part of the story, because the second part of the story is that sometimes replacements are eligible for Tony Awards. For example, in the original production of Company, Dean Jones, the original Bobby, was replaced by Larry Kert. Larry Kert was then eligible for and received a nomination for a Tony for performing the role of Bobby, even though he did not perform the role of Bobby on opening night. That's a bit of a different situation, though, because Dean Jones only performed in the show for just over a month after opening. He left the show very early on, and crucially, he left the show before Tony Award eligibility season was done. So the production itself had not been eligible for any Tonys before Larry Kert's arrival. Larry Kert was there when Tony season was happening, and Dean Jones left very quickly and only performed in it for a month, whereas Larry Kert performed for much longer. And so the Tony Award committee in that case felt that Larry Kert should be eligible. The difference is Funny Girl was eligible for Tonys in 2022. Jared Grimes received a nomination in that year for his supporting role. And then Lea Michele came into the show after the Tonys had already happened. So in a way, it's like this production as a whole has already had its chance at the Tony Awards, and they're not really interested in reopening that show's eligibility in any way, not even for new performers. So that is why Lea Michele did not receive a Tony nomination for the role. Again, if she was eligible, I think she would be a shoo-in to win the award, because holy cow, what a performance this was. I just loved it, and I'm sorry, I can't lie. I know Lea Michele is a controversial figure, but she was just good in this show. She was just so good and worth every penny I paid for the ticket. Mind you, I didn't pay that much because I went to the box office on the day of the shows and just checked if they had any available tickets, and they did. So if you are in New York and want to see this knockout performance before it closes on September 3rd, go to the August Wilson Theater, ask them if they have anything available. For all you know, they might have a seat in the third row for $119 or something a little bit affordable like that. So anyways, that is what I thought, having actually seen the performance up close and personal and live. Thank you for all the love I've been getting on the other Lea Michele videos I've made. Hopefully this one gets as much love as well, even though I'm not criticizing or tearing anybody down. Wouldn't it be great if we could spread some good vibes and positivity on the internet? That would be cool. Thank you so much for watching. More videos coming very, very soon. And if you want to hear about all the other shows I saw on my New York trip, you can check out the video that is linked somewhere here. Thank you all. Have a great day. See you in the next video. Bye.